Once, in a small village, there lived a young girl named Emma. Emma was 14 years old, with bright eyes and a curious mind. She loved asking questions about the world and dreamed of learning everything she could. But Emma's family was poor and they couldn't afford to send her to school. Instead, Emma spent her days helping her mother in the fields and her evenings reading old books she borrowed from a neighbour. One day, while walking through the village, Emma saw an elderly woman struggling to carry a basket of apples. Emma quickly ran over and offered to help. The woman smiled and said, "Thank you, dear. Not many young people are so kind these days. What is your name?" "My name is Emma," she replied. "I love helping people and learning new things." The woman laughed gently. "You remind me of myself when I was young. I've had many adventures in my life and learned many lessons. If you'd like, I can share some of my stories with you." Emma's eyes lit up with excitement. "I would love that!" she exclaimed. That evening, Emma visited the woman's house. It was small, but filled with strange objects from different places. Maps, shells, and even a small golden compass. The woman introduced herself as Mrs. Turner. She began telling Emma about her travels across mountains, forests, and oceans. "Each journey taught me something important," Mrs. Turner said. "Experience is the best teacher, and the best part is you can learn from anyone's experiences, not just your own." Emma listened carefully, her heart filling with inspiration. She decided that even if she couldn't travel far like Mrs. Turner, she would find ways to gain experience and learn from everything around her. From that day on, Emma began to see the world differently. She realized that every task, no matter how small, was an opportunity to learn. When she worked in the fields, she observed how the plants grew and learned the best ways to care for them. When she helped her mother cook, she experimented with flavors and spices, discovering how they changed the taste of food. One afternoon, Emma saw a group of children playing near the river. One of the boys was trying to build a small boat using sticks and leaves. The boat kept sinking, and the boy looked frustrated. Emma approached him and said, "Maybe you can try using something lighter, like pieces of bark. They might float better." The boy looked at her skeptically, but decided to try her idea. To his surprise, the bark floated. He smiled at Emma and said, "Thanks. How did you know that would work?" Emma shrugged. "I didn't. I just thought about how the leaves float on the water and guessed it might work the same way." Word began to spread about Emma's clever ideas. Villagers started coming to her for advice. Some asked her how to fix broken tools, while others wanted tips for planting crops. Emma didn't always have the answers, but she listened carefully, thought about what she had learned, and tried to find solutions. One evening, Mrs. Turner visited Emma's house. She brought a small notebook as a gift. "Write down everything you learn," Mrs. Turner said. "One day, these notes might help someone else." Emma was touched by the gift. She promised herself she would fill the notebook with all her experiences and lessons. She didn't know it yet, but this little notebook would one day change her life. As weeks turned into months, Emma's notebook began to fill with notes, sketches and ideas. She wrote about how to fix a torn basket, how to find clean water, and even how to calm a scared animal. Her notebook became her treasure, and she carried it with her everywhere she went. One day, a travelling merchant came to the village. He set up a colourful stall filled with fabrics, tools and strange gadgets Emma had never seen before. The entire village gathered around, curious to see his goods. Emma couldn't afford to buy anything, but she was fascinated by the merchant's stories of faraway places. The merchant noticed Emma watching and said, "You seem curious, young lady. Do you have any questions?" Emma hesitated, then asked, "How do you know so much about all these things?" The merchant smiled. "Years of experience, travelling, making mistakes and learning from them. Every place I visit teaches me something new." Emma's eyes lit up. "I want to learn too. But I've never left this village." The merchant chuckled. "You don't have to travel far to learn. Life teaches you lessons wherever you are. The key is to pay attention and never stop asking questions." Emma nodded. His words reminded her of what Mrs. Turner often said. She decided to show the merchant her notebook. "I've been writing down what I learn," she said shyly. The merchant flipped through the pages, impressed by Emma's careful observations and notes. "This is remarkable," he said. "You're already on the path to becoming wise. Keep this up, and one day people will come to you for advice." Emma felt a surge of pride. She realized that even though she hadn't travelled like the merchant or Mrs. Turner, her experiences were valuable. She decided to work even harder to learn and grow. After the merchant left, Emma felt more motivated than ever. She started paying closer attention to everything around her. When it rained, she studied how water flowed through the fields. When the sun set, she noticed how shadows changed as the light faded. Every small detail seemed like a lesson waiting to be learned. One morning, Emma heard a loud commotion near the village square. A cart carrying supplies had broken down, and the villagers were struggling to fix it. The wheel was stuck, and no one could figure out how to get it moving again. Emma approached cautiously, holding her notebook. She observed the problem for a moment and then said, "Maybe we can use a long stick as a lever to lift the cart and set the wheel free." The villagers looked at her skeptically, but decided to try her idea. With some effort, the cart was lifted and the wheel was fixed. Everyone cheered, and the owner of the cart thanked Emma. "You're a smart girl," he said. "How did you think of that?" Emma smiled. "I remembered seeing a farmer use a stick to lift a heavy rock. I thought it might work here too." Word of Emma's problem-solving skills spread beyond the village. Travellers passing through began seeking her advice. Some offered her small gifts in return, like a handful of seeds or a shiny stone. Emma added these items to her collection, each one reminding her of a lesson she had learned. Years later, Emma became a respected leader in the village. People travelled from far and wide to seek her wisdom. She taught them the same lessons she had learned: to observe, to be patient, and to never give up on learning. Emma's notebook, once just a collection of small lessons, became a treasure. It was passed down through generations, inspiring others to seek knowledge and use their experiences to grow. And so, Emma's story became a reminder to everyone that wisdom comes not from avoiding mistakes, but from learning from them. The end.